I'm Father Joel, and welcome to Pilgrim Priest. Took me a while to get this episode out, and it's kind of a stewardship renewal episode. You sort of had to be there, but hopefully listening to this will help you to grow in stewardship just a little bit in your own life. Thank you for the ways you're a steward, and God bless you.
When it comes to our annual Stewardship Commitment Sunday, I sometimes feel like the little old lady who just keeps bothering the judge until he finally does what she asks. Turn your card in, turn your card in, turn your card in. Of course, I need to be persistent, whether it's convenient or inconvenient, right? Now, some of you already completed a stewardship card and turned it in. If so, thank you. This will just be a little review. And some of you aren't members of our parish, and this is specifically for parish members. So this will be more of an infomercial, I suppose, for you guys. In our gospel reading, Jesus talks about this widow who's over and over again going to the judge asking for what she needs. She herself feels powerless, but she's not going to quit. And because of her persistence, she gets what she wants from the judge. And the Lord is inviting us to see that He wants us to also be persistent, to have this same confidence, to have this same dedication, to have this same persistence in prayer. And I don't know about you, but I can be kind of hot and cold when it comes to prayer. I often think I spend some time in prayer, but then I need to go figure things out. I need to make things happen. It's too easy for me to rely on myself. So recently, Father Boniface Hicks gave the clergy Congress for the priests of the Diocese of Green Bay, and he said that there's a pattern in the spiritual life, a consistent pattern. Try, fail, surrender. We try, we fail, and then we turn it over to God. And so as he was explaining some of his own journey, he talked about how he had tried really hard at this, failed at it, and then surrendered, and that's when it was fruitful. I would imagine that many of us have had this experience ourselves, where we thought we knew what we needed, we put a lot of work into it, and it didn't work. And then I think sometimes there's a temptation to give up. But when we surrender, when we turn it over to God, is when we find it fruitful. You see, our persistence in prayer is important for us to realize that God does care. When we ask for something that we really care about, that we really need, that we really want, we bring it to prayer, and the Lord doesn't seem to be answering what we asked for, we can sometimes be tempted to think that God didn't really hear us, that maybe we need to pray louder somehow, or that God heard us, but He doesn't really care. That somehow we have to prove to Him that we really need this or that we really matter. Jesus wants us to realize that God does hear us and God does care. In fact, He wants what's good for us even more than we want it for ourselves. And so a real good habit to get into is when we've tried and failed at something, we need to talk to the Lord about it. In many cases, when we're asking for a particular thing from the Lord, we're asking for health, or we're asking for a particular outcome, a job situation, an election result, whatever it is that's really dear to us, there's often an underlying need that we have in our life. We need to feel safe. We need to know that our loved ones are going to be okay. We need to know that we're not in this alone, that God really cares. We're afraid of being alone forever, so we're praying for a spouse and we're asking and begging the Lord, and that's not coming through. Or we've done what we can to make a situation better and we've run out of options, right? And so there's an underlying need, whether that's safety or security or love or peace, but then we have decided that this one thing is what I have to have in order to answer that underlying need. And the Lord isn't giving me this one thing, and so I'm becoming more anxious and frustrated as this need is going unmet. A great thing to do in the midst of that struggle is to step back to try to name what it is that you're looking for, like the unmet need, and then to talk to the Lord about it. Where instead of saying, God, give me this, say, God, I really need to feel safe. And I asked for this outcome, and you didn't give it to me, and now I don't feel safe. And then you share that with the Lord, and more often than not, when I brought those things to the Lord has just reminded me that He's with me, that He does care, and that He'll take care of things. I need to trust Him. And so the Lord wants to grow deeper in a relationship with us. Many times when He doesn't give us the thing we were looking for, it's because He wants to give us more of Himself. And we are often not open to receive that. We often don't realize how much what we need really is more Jesus in our lives. The Lord is inviting us to open our hearts to receive more of Him. And as we do, then we receive the peace, the security, the love. Those needs that we have are answered in a much better way than just getting the thing that we wanted would have answered our needs. So the Lord is always giving us opportunities to grow closer to Him. In fact, both the good times and the bad, both the sickness and the health, can be opportunities for us to draw closer to the Lord. But only if we're open and have good communication. Just like when spouses face difficulties in their life, if they communicate, they'll grow closer through those difficulties. And if they fail to communicate, if they don't receive each other, if they don't listen to one another, if they don't support each other, then they'll probably grow farther apart through those difficulties. So our annual stewardship renewal is not fundamentally about time, talent, and treasure. It's fundamentally about growing closer to the Lord, about naming the things that are most important to us. And so the question I want you to ask yourself, or rather to ask the Lord, is, Lord, how do you want me to grow closer to you in this coming year? And the first commitment that we ask for is a commitment of time. But we want you to commit time to being with the Lord, quality time in prayer. It's easy for us to fall into the temptation of thinking, I have to do it. And if I work harder, if I spend more time at this, then, well, I'll get more things done. But remember that some of the hardest working people on the planet, the missionaries of charity founded by Mother Teresa, who care for the poorest of the poor and depend on God to provide what they need for them to care for the poor, they spend a holy hour, an hour in prayer every day. And when Mother Teresa got extra busy, she would up her prayer time to 2 holy hours because she needed to get more done. So she needed to spend more time in prayer with the Lord. She trusted in her connection with God to really be the source of her fruitfulness. So in a similar way, I want to invite you to look through the time commitments here and to just ask yourself, how's the Lord inviting me to draw closer to Him in this coming year? How can I be more fruitful through a deeper connection with the Lord? I'll give you a little bit of quiet time to prayerfully reflect on that question. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm grateful to each and every way that you guys are stewards of the gifts that the Lord has blessed you with. Sometimes we might look around and say, well, the work the church is doing isn't really changing the world. The world is the same. In fact, it seems to be worse maybe as time goes on. But really, we have to remember in our first reading, we see that the Israelites are engaged in a battle, and Moses, as long as he keeps praying, as long as he keeps that connection with God, the Israelites are victorious. And then over time, Moses gets tired. He can't keep that connection with God. And so Aaron and Hur come and they help him. They help him stay connected with the Lord. And I think that's such a beautiful image of stewardship, that our service to God, our ability to change the world, flows from our communion with God, from our prayer. And then how the whole church is doing this together. And each and every person has different gifts that help us stay connected with God and that help us to change the world. And so you might look around and you say, well, the world's not any different whether I turn in a stewardship card or not. The world's not any different whether I live stewardship or not. But remember that you're responsible for one tiny corner of the world, your own life, your own heart. And when your life is changed, when your heart has changed, you change one little corner of the world, the one part you're responsible for. So when you live stewardship, when it changes you, that's what changes the world. There's a new horror movie out starring potatoes. It's called Silence of the Yams. Of course, the world's most scary potato is Darth Tater. He was less of a commentator and more of a dictator. If you have better potato jokes, I clearly could use the help.